Okay, it's going live. It's spinning, spinning, spinning. Now it says you're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Increasing SPRS Scores and Getting CMMC Ready. I'm going to give anybody who's coming to the webinar a chance to get connected. So we're going to go ahead and start at 2 minutes past the hour. So for those of you who just joined us, we're going to go ahead and get started in just 1 minute, just to let those late comers get a chance to get connected. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started now. So welcome to today's webinar, Increasing SPRS Scores and Getting CMMC Ready. My name's Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions here at Exostar. And just a quick reminder, so during today's webinar, we're going to be discussing and showing Policy Pro, which is an application which assists you in developing your policies for both NIST 800-171 and or CMMC accreditation. So there is a free trial available of Policy Pro. The description for that to get that trial going is available in the YouTube description. It takes about 2 minutes to get that up and going. So if you'd like to follow along as David goes his demonstration and talk, that could help you in your getting started area. So before we get started today, I also need to cover some housekeeping details. So today's webinar is scheduled to last 45 minutes to an hour. It includes a Q&A session. As just mentioned, a large portion of today's event is dedicated to answering those questions that were submitted prior to today's event when you registered. So those are the ones we're going to cover. In case there is an outage, hasn't happened yet, but just in case, please wait for a minute and then just refresh the page from the YouTube link you received. For your convenience, there is a link in the YouTube description to a glossary of commonly used terms, acronyms, and initializations that will be referenced during today's webinar. This webinar is being recorded. It'll be available on demand via the Exostar resource library. That can be found at www.exostar.com/resources. Anytime post-event, you can also use that YouTube link you were sent to replay the video if you'd like. If you need to talk to one of our industry experts or you need a copy of this slide deck, please reach out to us at cmmc-team@exostar.com. Or if you want to chat with us, there is a link on the www.exostar.com website. There's a chat feature there that'll start up and you can, and please ask your questions of of the folks on there as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So this webinar will include a live demonstration of Policy Pro. That application includes updates for the new CMMC 2.0 guidelines. And I'm joined on today's webinar by David Rowe of ISMS Solutions. David's going to drive the majority of today's webinar and do the product demonstration. So with that, David, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Hi, everyone. My name is David Rowe. As you said, I am going to be showing you our application, Policy Pro, today, and we'll be walking through a demonstration of some of the changes to the platform, including the updates to CMMC 2.0, as we go through this demo of the platform. The first step, and it kind of helps regardless of where you are in your cybersecurity journey. So whether you don't have any cybersecurity policies related to NIST 800-171 or CMMC, we can help you there. Or if you already have all of your policies, there is a policy assessment tool that can help you assess existing policies as well. So in either case or anywhere in between, you can utilize this tool to make sure that you're covering all of the required controls and practices within each of the policies itself. So one of the first things I'd like to show everyone is our Policy Builder tool. And as mentioned before, it is updated for CMMC 2.0. So you'll be able to see the different policy families here, so the 14 policy families, and we'll be walking through access control today. First time around, you'll be seeing this pop up here, and it just gives a brief description of policies, what they are, what you should be doing to prepare prior to even getting started, as well as some helpful links, including the POAM template, the SSP template, and then this screen right here is going to show you exactly what you need to prepare, gather, and who you might need to consult with prior to even getting started with the actual policies themselves. So for example, in the gather phase, you might want to gather any documents or records pertaining to the maintenance of company's IT infrastructure. Maybe you want to have in hand the training of personnel and any certifications that might be related to it. Some people who you might want to consult as you're building this policy will be a network administrator, the head of IT or your CISO, as well as any outside contractors. So if you're using an MSP or an MSSP to help with your IT, then certainly they're going to be involved with this particular policy here. If you're ready, you can then click the if you're ready, get started button here, and it'll take you to this page where we've broken out the policy into a couple different sections. We've got the header, which includes the organization, what department is going to be handling this particular policy, the issue date once you're finished with this particular policy, as well as who it's approved by, and then the tracking numbers for internal control that you might want to do, or internal versionings. So it's a good way to keep track of the different versions of each policy. And then we've got the purpose, the scope, and the practices. So the practices here are actually broken out into each of the individual practices, and I'll show you exactly what each of the templates look like. So again, this is updated for CMMC 2.0, and it is mapped directly to all of the previous NIST 800-171 practices and controls. So you're going to be working on 14 different policies and 110 different controls here. To get started with the actual template, you'll click on the pencil icon, which will bring up the actual template here. And we can see for access control 3.1.1, we'll be working on account creation. It'll show you all of the language that's related to this particular practice, as well as what you need to customize and what you need to think about for your organization as you're actually building out this particular practice. And then, in addition to that, under each practice, you will be able to actually see some guidelines here, and the guidelines give you a good sense of direction for how you want to craft your narrative as you're building out your policy. So, in conjunction with the guidelines as well as the templates, you'll have a good direction in terms of exactly where you want to go for your actual policies. And then a note for existing users who have kind of already done this work, whether it was for NIST 800-171 or for CMMC version 1.0. We do have all of your legacy data as well. So you can see on the left-hand pane, if you click on the legacy portion, you'll be able to still access all of your old content. And if necessary, you can update those to CMMC 2.0 as well. The other aspect to Policy Builder is once you finish this process of customizing, you can then export the document, and it's going to combine all of those previous sections that I mentioned before, the header, the purpose, the scope, as well as all of the practices. And this little pop-up here is just telling me I haven't gone into any of these sections to actually customize it. So in reality, I should be going through all of these, making sure I'm appropriately adjusting it for exactly what my organization is currently doing or plan on doing for each individual policy. But assuming I am happy with those changes, I'll click yes, and then it will actually export it so I can have a hard copy of it on my hard drive, as well as it'll be an important step for the next piece of the platform, which is the policy assessment tool. Now, the policy assessment tool was designed for you to be able to see any gaps within policies. So whether they were created using our Policy Builder tool, or if it's an existing policy, either one works. So it doesn't necessarily have to use the policies created using our tools. So let's go through an example here. I will upload an access control policy. And as soon as that is uploaded here, I can see a couple different things, which I'll go into detail by clicking the detailed scorecard. And it will bring up this pop-up here, which goes through a couple different aspects. And the overall assessment is comprised of 3 criteria. It's going to be the relevance, the model similarity, and the word counts. The relevance is how many key terms or phrases are in your policy document. The more key terms and phrases you have in your policy, the higher your overall relevance is going to be, and therefore your overall assessment is going to be higher. The model similarity is comparing your document to our policy documents and our policy templates, as well as our best practice documents. And we do that for 2 reasons. One, to ensure that the policy you've uploaded has been customized and it's befitting of your organization, as well as to ensure that you're covering all of the required controls and practices within this particular policy domain. And then finally, the word count is just simply to ensure that you have enough context surrounding those key terms or phrases. So it's not enough just to have all of the key terms, but you need to have the surrounding context in order for those key terms to make sense. So those are the kind of 3 aspects that comprise of the overall assessments, but I want to dive into a little bit deeper about how you can actually use this information in order to build and improve your policy documents. And the way to do that is through our key elements not included, or KENNY for short. And we've broken that out also into the control KENNYs as well as the general KENNYs. So the control KENNYs here are key terms and phrases that are missing within my policy documents. and should be addressed in some sort of fashion within my policy. And it is also directly linked back to the standard itself. So in this particular case, CMMC 2.0 slash NIST 800-171, and then level 2. So this particular key phrase here, CUI non-public information, hasn't been found in my policy. Why is it important? Well, we can see here that within the standard access control 3.1.22, controlling information posted or processed on publicly accessible information systems, we give you the security requirement directly out of the standard itself, as well as the documents for examination. So these are other documents that your organization might already have, whether they are records, maybe internal logs, anything like that might help you as you address this particular heading. So in the sample document that I uploaded, I've got 50 key terms here missing, and so I'll go through each one and kind of make sure that I'm addressing them appropriately within my documents. So as I'm doing that and uploading new versions, I'll continuously improve my score as well as ensure that I'm covering everything I need to cover. The second piece to that was the general Kennys. So the general Kennys are very similar in the sense that they are also key terms and phrases that I should be including in my policy documents. However, they don't have that kind of detailed information about the standard and where it comes from. And the reason for that is these are best practices, controls that you should be thinking about adding into your policy document. And most organizations are going to have these things addressed within their policy. So they are certainly terms you should think about incorporating into your policies. Also, in addition to those, you are able to export this if you wish to share it with someone else within your organization, or you just want to work on it offline. You can certainly do that as well. Within the screen, I also do want to talk about another feature here, which is the management approval piece. And let me just upload another document here so we can get a better example of how to utilize this management approval button. So once I click on the management approval, it's going to do a couple different things here. And I will show you exactly what that looks like within the dashboard. So once you've kind of completed this process of either building out your policies and then assessing your policies, it's going to keep track of every activity done throughout the platform. So once I've come into the dashboard here, I can see the 2 policies I've uploaded into access control. And the other thing I can notice here is that management approval check mark. And what that does is it timestamps as well as shows who approved it, and it's going to give me a good internal trail of exactly when I've updated my last policy, what's the most up-to-date one, and which one was the last management approved one. So that's going to be an important piece as you're doing an internal audit, as you're getting an external audit. And so all of those things are kind of displayed here on that dashboard. In addition to that, it's also going to keep track of your policy builder activities. So you can see which policies need to be built, which ones have been assessed, and then which ones have been management approved. The last piece I want to talk about here for building or improving policies was our reference library. So the reference library is going to contain links to various resources across the web, most of them from NIST, but if you're working on, let's say, access control and you noticed a lot of Kennys surrounding firewalls, for example, then and you noticed I don't have anything related to firewalls in my policies, but I'm not really sure how to get started or how to work on it. You can come into here in the reference library, click on the hyperlink, and it will take you directly to the relevant section. So we've broken it out into all of the different policy sections, so it's a quick and easy way to actually see all of the material you need to rebuild or improve your policy documents. The last piece to this is everything I've kind of shown you right now was for CMMC 2.0 / NIST 800-171, but for level 2. If you think you might be going for a level 1 certification, or just you want to, you know you're not going for a level 2 certification and you want to ensure that you're aligned with the level 1 requirements, then you can click on this button here and it will take you to the level 1 policies and the level 1 practices. So those are kind of the updates and changes to CMMC 2.0. It is, like Kevin mentioned, it is available for a free trial, so definitely check out that link in the YouTube description below. All right, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, David. All right, let me take back the sharing here. All right. So as we get into the Q&A, before I get started, just want to remind everybody, there is an exit poll. We'd appreciate your feedback. That link you should also see there in the YouTube description. This helps us greatly in both providing feedback on how we did today, but also we'll ask your opinion on additional topics, things you want to see, etc. So that'll help us plan these kinds of events later on as well. So we'd appreciate your feedback as part of before you exit out today. So on the Q&A session, so as I mentioned, when you signed up for this session, you should have been asked if you have any questions you'd like addressed. We got a few of those in, so I'm going to start covering those. Let's see. So David, the first question, pretty easy. Let me ask this one because I think we've covered it a little bit, but just want to reinforce it. So what's the best way for someone to get started?
Yeah, definitely. So a big part of not just compliance, whether it's for NIST 800-171 or for CMMC 2.0, the biggest aspect to either of those standards is going to be your policies. And so certainly starting with a trial or an account of Policy Pro, it's really going to help you, again, whether you are just starting out so you don't have any policies or you have some policies. In either case, I think definitely starting with your policies is a good way to start. The second thing to that is, and kind of the topic of the webinar is, policies are a very large portion of your SPRS score. So you're going to want to ensure that you have policies that are aligned with either of the standards, aligned with all of the different policy requirements, as well as all of the individual practices themselves.
Absolutely. What I'll also just kind of emphasize from what David just said is that it's a key thing to remember that as you read the controls and the different families of those controls within both NIST and then the coming CMMC requirements, is that it's not good enough just to say, oh yeah, my company does that, or yes, we do it, and I can explain to you how I do it. With the new CMMC requirements, there is a requirement to be audited every 3 years. And what those audits will typically include is both the look at your policies. So, you first spell out how you do something, then you show the auditors how you do that, right? You tell them what you're doing, you show them what you're doing, and then you verify what you're doing to them via the various, error checking methods and the things you do to ensure that those policies are actually being enforced. So these things kind of do feed on each other as you work through these things, and you do need to write down these policies. Let's see. So next question. Okay, so as a I'm going to make a couple assumptions here on this question, because so it says as a company that wants that is level 2 compliant today, how soon after March 1st, 2023, and that's when currently people are expecting the CMMC 2.0 requirements to be enforced, if you will. It says, can we expect to be audited? So David, anything you've heard in the grapevine about when those audits are going to start?
Yeah, actually, I do believe the CMMC AB recently came out with an announcement a couple days ago that they're actually starting as soon as next month voluntary assessments coming out. So you can certainly, if you're already compliant or believed to be compliant, you can apply for one of those voluntary assessments as soon as next month with one of those accredited certifying bodies. And then I'm assuming that the rulemaking changes go through March 1st, then we can expect audits around that time frame as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that with that kind of that March 1st, 2023 date, which everyone's seen as that target for CMMC, all of this is tied at the end of the day back to the contracts you sign. And these requirements will start to show up in those DFARS clauses that are part of those contracts. So when you start to get these requirements, so you should start to see these in the contracts starting around that March 2023 timeframe as well. So please, as you start to bid on things and go through that contracting process, make sure you know what you've signed up for, because that's really when those audits will be enforceable, if you will, because that's when you've signed the contract.
And I would just add one thing there also, Kevin, is that people shouldn't wait till they see it in their contracts, and they shouldn't wait till they are ready for their assessments. Policy building, this whole process of compliance is a continuous journey, and it's a very long, continuous journey. So if you're waiting for that time period, you might already be too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this isn't something you can just turn on, right? There is a process you've got to go through to make sure you're addressing all the various controls, that you've got your policies in place and that you're going forward. So absolutely great point. So before we answer a couple more questions, just wanted to make a plug, if you will, for a companion Exostar application called Certification Assistant. This is something that allows you to see how you're doing, both against NIST 800-171 and CMMC, be it level 1 or level 2. And this can work hand in hand with Policy Pro, in that once you've got your policies in place and you've written those policies, Certification Assistant will walk you through each of those different controls. It will allow you to import those policies that you wrote in Policy Pro, document those here along with those other pieces of it, right? The example of how you've implemented anything you've got hooked up to check on the enforcement of those policies, etc. So CA also offers a free trial. Same place you sign up for Policy Pro, you can sign up for a CA trial as well. And this is a great way to do those initial assessments. If you are in kind of that phase of, okay, what's my next step? What do I need to do? That question of where do I get started? Certification Assistant is another great way to let you know kind of where you stand. It'll walk you through, those 110 controls. It'll walk you through just those that are necessary for level 2 or level 3, and allow you to, basically just say, yes, I've implemented this, or I haven't. Here's the documentation that I have implemented it, etc. And it'll get you that score that you then need to submit into the SPRS system. The final output of Certification Assistant is that system security plan. It's any open POAMs you might have for those controls you may not have fully implemented yet or implemented at all yet. And then also we'll provide you those that score that you need into the SPRS system as well. So continue on with the questions. So person asks, I'm a little confused with the CMMC 2.0 policy release, right? At first there were, when CMMC was initially announced, it had 17 policies. Level 2 now is these 14 control families. And then the level 1 has 6. Excuse me. So what should I be working on now, David?
So before I answer on the what should you be working on now, I just want to clarify some of the changes. So as mentioned in the question, CMMC version 1.0 did have 17 different policy families, and now it is down to 14. The other change from CMMC 1.0 to 2.0 was also the levels that they had. So levels, CMMC 1.0 had up to 5 levels, and now it's just down to 3. So the current version 2.0 level 2 corresponds with the NIST 800-171 requirements. So it's going to have the 14 policy families. It's going to have the 110 controls, and then the level 1 is the 6 policies. So that's kind of the primary differences between how it used to be in 1.0 and how it is currently in CMMC 2.0. In terms of what you should be working on, it's a little bit hard to say without knowing your organization, but assuming that you are handling sensitive CUI information, it's probably likely you're going to be working towards a level 2 certification. So I would definitely start out with the CMMC 2.0 level 2 policies and practices. And then Kevin, I'm not sure if your thoughts differed on that.
No, I think I would say the same, David. I'm assuming most people will be level 2, and so you really should start working on that today. The way, kind of the best way to get started today is to look at NIST 800-171, work through those, because today they are the same as those that are in CMMC 2. And so, doing one definitely won't hurt you in preparing for the other, because they'd be the same going forward. So I would agree that that's kind of the place you want to get, you want to start. Okay, whoops. There we go. So just to let everyone know, so Exostar puts on a number of events every month. We have this a Policy Pro workshop like this every month, but then Policy Pro group itself also holds a session as well that you can sign up at our website. We've got a number of other resources out there for you, and if you request this slide deck, you'll get these these resources available to you as well. This should help address one of the questions we got about kind of where do I go for training on cybersecurity. That's a broad question about kind of how do I get started in cybersecurity. There is a requirement, typically to train everybody in your organization on your policies and the changes to those policies. So it's absolutely something that you need to look to do. And there are a number of things that possibly your MSP or your MSSP or your MSSP is also offering around kind of the general cybersecurity and or information security requirements for for your particular company. So that's about all I have on that one, and I think that kind of addresses all the questions we had. So just wanted to thank everybody for attending today. Remind everybody that there is the exit poll, and we'd love to have you fill that out for us before you go today. Want to thank David for you. David, thank David for his time today and for that great demonstration. And want to thank you all for your time and attention today. Everyone have a great day, and we will hopefully talk to you soon.